Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 98 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. And we are still in chapter 32. I'd hoped to finish it, but we were just not able to. Let's hope we can get through it now. There's just several, I think seven verses left. So, okay, that's fine. Let's get into it. First of all, though, let's chant our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachade Shatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpatarubhyas cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Right, so verse 37. My dear mother, I have explained to you the process of devotional service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I have explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them. So yes, Lord Kapila, explaining such a wonderful explanation. So Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport. The process of bhakti yoga, Prabhupada says, is the main river flowing down towards the sea of the absolute truth. All other processes are just tributaries. So if you understand rivers, tributaries, and so on, the main river is the main river, it goes right down to the sea. The tributaries, there are other rivers, separate rivers, but then they come and join the main river. And having joined the main river, then they flow to the sea. So similarly, Bhakti Yoga is the main river, going to the sea of the absolute truth, going to Krishna, through devotional service, developing love for Krishna, and the Jnana Yoga, the Ashtanga Yoga, and they're the main yogas, but there's also Karma Yoga, Sat Chakra Yoga. It's only when those yogas connect with devotional service, connect with Bhakti Yoga, that then they are able to reach the absolute truth. Otherwise, they can't reach the absolute truth. Either they can't reach, or they can't reach the full absolute truth, like just the Brahma Jyoti, or just the Paramatma. That's not the full absolute truth. Those are not the full absolute truth. Yeah. So Kapila now then, Prabhupada says, is summarizing the importance of the process of devotional service. So, as described before, Prabhupada says, Bhakti Yoga is divided into 4 divisions. 3 divisions are in the modes, and 1 is in transcendence, untinged by the modes. Yeah. When mixed with the modes, devotional service is a means for material existence. What Prabhupada's talking about, what Lord Kapila's been talking about, that was in chapter 29, if you remember. Devotional service and ignorance. There was a verse, very specific. What is devotional service in ignorance? And if you've got some understanding of the subject, then you would see that, yes, This is very clear. There is such a thing as devotional service in ignorance, or tinged, mixed, influenced by ignorance, and similarly with passion and goodness. Goodness, if you remember, it's devotional service. Devotional service is going on, but at the root of it, the basis of it, is the desire to become free from your conditioning. To become free from karmic reactions and like that. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that devotional service, without desires for fruit of result, and without attempts for empirical philosophical result, is pure transcendental devotional service. Verse 38. Kapila says, there are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he's unable to understand where his movements will end. So there's a short purport here. So Prabhupada makes the point, once you're into ongoing material existence, it's very difficult to get out. You just get sucked in to ongoing material existence, trying to enjoy and trying to find ways to improve yourself so you can enjoy better and all that sort of thing. So it's very difficult to get out. So therefore the Lord comes himself, or he sends his bona fide representative. He leaves behind scriptures, particularly Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so that people who are in ignorance can get good instructions and can become freed. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master, or Krishna, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence. By his own endeavor, it is not possible. So 3 categories: mercy from any one or all or some of these 3 categories. Saintly persons, like Siksha Gurus. Spiritual master generally means the initiating spiritual master, or Krishna himself. Then you can't get out of ignorance by your own effort. It's just not possible. So now on to the last section, section 8, from verse 39 to verse 43. As you can see, it's a short section. Anyway, we're going to go into it. And we call it, who are the instructions on pure devotional service for? Who are the intended recipients of the instructions on pure devotional service? Okay. And who are they not for, as we'll see? Let's just read the verses. I mean, there's a few verses with no purports, but let's just really get a focus on this nicely, because this is the last part of the 3rd canto. And we really want to, bring the 3rd canto to a conclusion in as complete and focused a way as possible. So we'll read the verses. First of all, verse 39. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostics, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior, nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material possessions. Verse 40, it is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. 41. Instruction should be given to the faithful devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. 42. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment for that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Right, okay, and verse 43, which is the end, and is just doesn't have a purport. Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. There's no purport, so that's it. That is the purport, you could say, the conclusion of it all. All right, so let's go through in detail. Right, so who are the instructions on pure devotional service for? Who are they not for? Verse 39 to verse 43, verse 39. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostics, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior. Nor is it for hypocrites, or for persons who are proud of material possessions. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. Right, so there is a reasonably extensive purport to verse 40. Yeah, let's have a look at it. So, people, and I mean, there are such people. People are always planning to do harm to other living entities. They're not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness. Not eligible essentially means unable. Their minds, their intelligence just cannot get around it. And it'll just be like a big enigma, means an unsolvable question for them. Yeah. So they're not eligible, that's one way of putting it, to understand Krishna consciousness, and they cannot enter the realm of loving service to the Lord. But there are also, here's an interesting point, there are also disciples who become submissive to the spiritual master artificially with an ulterior motive. They want to get something. Maybe they want to get money. Maybe they want to get a husband or a wife. Maybe they want to get some fame, some control. You know, such things, such people exist. Yeah, disciples who become submissive to the spiritual master artificially with an ulterior motive. So they also can't understand what Krishna consciousness really is. And then there's other people, persons, who they become initiated by some other sort of group, some other sort of sect. You know, in Krishna consciousness, there's devotional service. But in this other group, they don't have devotional service. They have some other thing, whatever it may be, merge in this way or that, or go to the heavenly planets, or something, whatever. And so if they contact Krishna consciousness, then they can't grasp it, because they're attached to whatever the other idea is. So they also can't understand Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada makes the point that we have experience, that some come to join us, but because of being biased by some type of faith, they leave us and become lost in the wilderness. They may become attached to, some other form of Vaishnavism, even, where the focus is different. Yeah, and therefore they come to leave us, but then they become attracted by the ideas of some other group, maybe of devotees even, but just some other group. Yeah. And so they leave us and become lost. So Prabhupada makes the point, Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian faith. Prabhupada says it is a teaching process, it's educational for understanding the Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him. So anyone can join. But unfortunately, some people have some different ideas, like we just mentioned. So if it becomes clear, or when it becomes clear, or if it becomes clear that some of these people, they're like that, they really do have other ideas, even though they may have been involved in Krishna consciousness for a while, in one way or another, but then they show some other sort of other attraction to some other orientation, then Prabhupada says, better not to instruct them in Krishna consciousness. And then, yes, there's a second paragraph. So, of course, generally, materialists are after some name, fame, material gain. And if someone comes to Krishna consciousness for these reasons, he won't be able to understand it ultimately. And these people, Prabhupada says, they take to religious principles as a social decoration. I mean, it does happen to become socially accepted. Some people, some devotees, they want to become initiated, but the main reason they want to become initiated is so they become accepted within the society of devotees. They may join some institution for name only. Prabhupada says some cultural institution, especially in this age. So such people can understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And even if one is not greedy for material things, if one is just too attached to family life, he's not going to be able to understand Krishna consciousness clearly. Yeah. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, when a person is not contaminated by the above-mentioned faults, yet at the ultimate issue is not interested in serving, in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if he's a non-devotee, then he also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Verse 41. Instruction should be given to the faithful devotee who's respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. 42. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, to be the most dear. Persons who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment from that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. The purview ultimately means the range, the sphere of what is Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's have a look at the purport. There's a fairly substantial purport, actually. So in the beginning, no one can be elevated to the highest stage of devotional service. Just like that. Just like that. Just take to Krishna consciousness, then higher stage immediately. So bhakti or bhakta, to be a devotee, to be a bhakta, means one is ready to accept the reformatory process for becoming a devotee. So to do this, you have to accept a spiritual master and inquire how to progress. And when you've found out how to progress, you have to do it. Do all those things. And Prabhupada explains that, well, first of all, there's 64 devotional activities for progress. And the most important of them are, and these are the last 5 of the list of 64, given by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, and given by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan, Mathurava Srimurtir Shravana Sevan. So not in necessarily the same order. To serve a devotee, to chant the holy name according to a certain counting method, not just chant the holy name, but according to a certain counting method. To worship the deity, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from a realized soul, and to live in a sacred place where devotional service is not disturbed. So, Srila Prabhupada says that one who has accepted these 5 chief activities is called a devotee. Second paragraph. You have to be ready. And Prabhupada is describing the process, basically. You have to be ready to offer the necessary respect and honor to the spiritual master. Don't be unnecessarily envious of your god brothers. Don't be envious at all. Rather, if a god brother is more enlightened and advanced than you, accept him as almost on the level of the spiritual master. And you should be very happy to see him advance. Then, a little different. Devotees should always be kind to the general public. Instruct them in Krishna consciousness, as it's the only solution to get out of Maya. And this is real humanitarian work. And Prabhupada refers to the word Shushrusha Birataya. Let me just have a look at it in the verse. Oh, it's in verse 41. Means being eager to render service with faith and sincerity. So the word Shushrusha Birataya indicates a person who faithfully engages in serving the spiritual master. One should give personal service and all kinds of comforts to the spiritual master. Yes, and one who does this is a bona fide candidate for getting instructions. But then Prabhupada goes on, the word Bahirjata Viragaya means a person who has developed detachment from external and internal material propensities. So not only detached from activities which are not connected with Krishna consciousness, but internally averse to such things. Internally averse to the material way of life. And of course one should be non-envious and think of the welfare of all living entities. Prabhupada concludes the paragraph by saying, the word shuchaye means one who is cleansed both externally and internally. To become actually cleansed externally and internally, one should chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna or Vishnu, constantly. Then the third paragraph, the word diyatam, means that knowledge of Krishna consciousness should be offered by the spiritual master. The spiritual master must not accept a disciple who's not qualified. He should not be professional and should not accept disciples for monetary gain. Yes. The spiritual master should see the qualities of the person he's going to initiate and not initiate anyone not worthy. Then he should train the disciple so that in the future the Lord will be his goal in life. Dearmost, let me just add that, will be his dearmost goal in life. All right. So Prabhupada explains that in these two verses, the qualities of a devotee are fully explained. One who has developed all these qualities listed in these verses is already qualified to be a devotee. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, if one has not developed all these qualities, he still has to fulfill these conditions in order to become a perfect devotee. So essentially, this is referring to verses 41 and 42, because they actually overlap. Even if you remember, the word Shushrusha Birataya is actually, which is referred to in the purport of 42, actually is in 41. Yes. So here we go, devotees. The last verse in chapter 32 of the third canto. Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.